Well, welcome again today. Glad you joined us for this daily life connection. We're continuing in 2 Samuel chapter 9, story of Mephibosheth. And today I want to look at the God who returns all that's been lost. In the story of Mephibosheth, we read how David, when he gets him in the palace, excuse me, he says, I intend to show kindness to you because of my promise to your father Jonathan. And then he says, I will give you all the property that once belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will eat with me here at the king's table. I'll return all the property that belonged to your family. Excuse me. God is a restorer. God returns to us, recovers. We recover. In God, we recover what has rightfully been ours. The reality is, in this world, through our lives, oftentimes many things have been robbed from us. You know, somebody said something really nasty to us, or somebody labeled us in a very unloving way, or things happened to us through people or circumstances that have just diminished us. They've diminished our self-esteem. They've diminished our faith in our ability to accomplish and to do. You know, somebody might have said to you, you'll never be any good at such and such. And you know what? We bought that. We bought into that, and it robbed us of some things we could have experienced, some things we could have done. And then as we grow older, we begin to regret what could have been. What could have been if only those things hadn't been stolen from me, hadn't been taken from me. Well, God says David says to Mephibosheth, I'm returning to you all that rightfully belonged to you before all this stuff happened. This is so powerful, people. Jesus' intention is to return to us all the things that have been taken from our lives, diminished in our lives, stolen in our lives, suppressed in our lives. He intends to bring all of those things back into our lives again because of who we are. Who are we? Who was Mephibosheth? Why is David doing this? He said, I'm returning all the things, all the property and assets that belonged to your grandfather Saul, who was the king. In other words, Mephibosheth, you have royal DNA in you, and because of that, I'm going to give you everything that belonged to the king. Wow. Now, here's the kicker. In Romans, it says that we are heirs and joint heirs with Jesus. We have royal DNA. We belong to him. He created us. We are his children. He chose us long before the foundation of the world, Ephesians chapter 1, to be adopted as his children, to be brought into his presence. And there he restores to us. He's a restorer. So you and I, we're created by God. He is our Father. Jesus taught us to pray that. Our Father. Our Father. He's saying, I want you to remember who you are. Mephibosheth, David said, I want you to remember who you are. You are a prince in the kingdom. Your father was king, your grandfather was king, your father was a prince, and so are you. I want you to be reminded of who you are, and I'm going to do things in your life that will remind you of who you are. Oh, folks, this is so powerfully good. As we spend time with God, he will bring things into our lives that remind us of who we are created to be, his sons and daughters. He's going to bring things into our lives that have been stolen from us. He's going to bring things to life, dead dreams. He's going to bring things to our lives that will remind us of who he is and of who we are, and that we're blessed and that we're part of the royal family of God. Wonderful news. Wonderful news. David said, I'm returning to you everything that's been taken from you. I believe that as we walk with God, as we grow in our faith, trusting him to restore in us, we will find things coming to life in us that we thought were dead. We will find things happening in our lives that we thought could never happen. Because he's a God of possibilities. He's a God of restoration. David reflected that to Mephibosheth, and his heart reflects Jesus' heart, the Father's heart, to you and I. He is the God who will return to us what has been diminished in our lives. So if there's an area in your life today where you just feel particularly you've been diminished, just begin going to Jesus and talk to him about it, and watch for signs that he's restoring it, because he is, and he will. And he who began that good work in you, Philippians 1:6, will bring it to completion. He will. He'll finish it. He'll get it all back to you. Oh, that's good news. Wish we had more time to talk today. But yeah, just trust him. He's getting it back to you. Keep your eyes open and watch for what he's doing. Good news. Let's talk again tomorrow.